Productive Pastor, episode 70, creating a morning routine. What's up, friends? Chad. Welcome back to Productive Pastor, episode 70. I can't believe we're this far down the line since rebooting the show a year ago, but it's awesome. I'm stoked to talk to you about morning routines this episode, and it's going to be a little bit calmer than you might imagine. You know, back in the day, the first iteration of Productive Pastor, this sort of thing was a very different conversation, and I'm excited to talk about what I have been learning about morning routines and creating one of those. Before we jump into that, a little bit of front matter. Number one, Trello course. I finished all of the video editing and work. I'm stoked to turn this out to y'all. It's been the entire summer in the making. I've learned a lot of stuff in process about it, though. It's going to be fantastic content. Second thing, the Productive Pastor emails this month are all about understanding organizational complexity in ministry. So many of the pastors I talk to in coaching relationships, things are just complex, especially in the normal-sized church. You know, staffs have gotten smaller. Things are a little bit different. The church has gotten more complex, but resources have gotten a little bit tighter. So what does that look like? Make sure you subscribe for those emails, going through that each week this month, kind of drilling down further and further in the process. If this sounds interesting, make sure to subscribe to the emails. That's what we got for the front matter. We're going to pop into the main conversation about creating a morning routine. So let's just go straight into it together. So is this about maximum productivity? No. So many times I see, especially on Twitter, these folks that have morning routines that are up at 4 o'clock in the morning and do my cold plunge and write my morning pages, this sort of stuff. And there's not a secret sauce to this, number one. Number two, there was a different way. I would have talked about this several years ago where I would be talking about morning routines so you can crank out all the work. But it just doesn't work that way with me right now. It's also not healthy. It's not realistic. What I want to talk this morning is about scaling the idea of a morning routine through activating 3 different things. And this is about you having the ability to have your best foot forward as you start your day. And this can scale. This can be very, very basic. This can be advanced. This can change depending on the stage of life or the season that you are in. You know, a summer morning routine might be very different than an Advent morning routine. But I want to give you a framework to help you understand the ways to have these things as part of your life if you so choose. Now, I'm a big fan of morning routines. I have my morning routine scheduled in my Trello weekly dashboard, and it changes. I'll go in, I'll modify, and I'll change things. But there's a basic framework to it that I have found allows me to start off well. And I think this is the broadest idea of what can be helpful for you. You might be wrangling little people around the house in the morning, or you might be bivocational and have a very different type of job. I've got several friends that are pastors that are also school teachers. It's very, very different. So I think this is the simplest but a thorough way to think through morning routines. We're going to activate 3 things. The first thing is this: how are you activating your mind? Ministry in a lot of ways is thought work. It's a job that navigates complexity. It's a job where we have to be thinking through because our words matter. But we have to activate that. We have to turn that on. And I have found it's incredibly difficult to step into a space where I'm expected sometimes, like if I'm going in to do sermon work or something like that, and I've not gotten my mind going yet. There's something about knowing how you can get your mind going in the morning. Reading. It's a huge thing. I love to find books that challenge me, that challenge my mind, but are broken apart very easily. I don't do as much reading in the morning in certain seasons of life as I would like to. But if I can get 15 minutes of something, 15 minutes of a reading that's going to make me think, that's what I'm going for. Sometimes it's Substack newsletters. Sometimes it's simpler books. That piece, but I want to get my mind working. It might be a bit of writing or a bit of creativity, thinking through just some level of project. Remember, this is about activating your mind, getting your mind working, especially for morning people. You're priming the pump for the deep work or the sermon prep or whatever you're going to be stepping into that morning when you get into the office. But what are the ways you can activate your mind to get you into the space you need to be in? Number 2, how are you activating your soul? As ministry leaders, I think this is incredibly important. I would almost go so far as to say that this is a non-negotiable, that we have to be activating our soul, taking care of that work before we step into it, because you never know what's going to happen at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning. You step into the office and you literally walk into a crisis that requires spiritual leadership. So activating our soul is really, really important to keep up that personal side of things, the personal ways that we do this. I love the daily office. I've fallen in love with it over the last few years, and I always do more and more and more of the office. I'll be honest with you. When I started it off, I just liked the daily office Bible readings, and I just did those. And in the last year, my buddy Joshua Tepper has gotten me deeper and deeper and deeper into the office because it activates my soul. I also keep a journal, and I do a handful of things at minimum in that each morning. There might be some reading. You might have a different kind of reading that you want to do to activate that soul. I'm right now going through I don't know what to call it. It's a collection of writings, let's say that, by A.W. Tozer. The book's called Discipleship, although I found out it's not that much about discipleship. A lot of it seems to be about personal leadership. Not personal leadership, personal spiritual development and personal spiritual desire, that sort of thing. But these chapters take me 5 to 7 minutes, and just a chapter a day does a really, really good job activating my soul. But think about that. How do you at the Spirit wake you up that morning? How do you at the Spirit prepare you for what you might be stepping into? What I love about the devotional tradition and ministry, and I talk about this a lot, is how many times things that I'm thinking through, praying through, reading in Scripture, that sort of stuff, it's what I need later on that day or a couple of days later. I believe deeply in activating my soul in the morning. Like I said, I'm almost willing to call this a non-negotiable. Third thing is activating your body. Now, this is where I need growth. Earlier this year, when I had a lot of time, it was more of a leisurely approach to my mornings. I was waking up really, really early at that point in time, and I can't do that as much right now. I was getting a 30-minute walk in every morning, and I was firing up a couple of different things. I was doing the 24/7 Lectio, the 365, Lectio 365, that's what the app's called, from 24/7 prayer. I was listening to that. I was listening to my old boss, J.D. Walt, and the Daily Text. And I was listening to both those things. That would take around 20 minutes to listen to them. And then I just turn my phone off and get the last 10 minutes or whatever in silence. And I absolutely loved that. Now, my wife has a pretty intense workout regimen. She does the whole thing. It takes her like 2 hours in the morning. But she has the flexibility to do that. She also can wake up at 3:30 in the morning and have no problem. And we don't have kids. That's a huge thing I've realized is I have to state that before I go into a lot of this, because our lifestyle is very different. My wife has a very, very, very long morning routine, but that's what she does. But I've been thinking about that. How do I activate my body? What does it mean to just stretch a little bit, to do a little bit of a light workout exercise to the house? I'm not telling you to go to the gym for an hour every morning. I don't do that. I train jiu-jitsu several times a week, but I do that in the evening. But just something to wake my body up. And I think that this matters to me. Where I'm growing and learning in this is it's just this holistic expression of becoming a full, healthy version of myself in the morning. And so even if it's going out in the backyard and horsing around with the kettlebells for 5 minutes or throwing my sandbags around, that kind of a thing. I've been getting into those body weight, that type of exercises in some ways. But doing something for 5 or 10 minutes, literally just to activate, just to wake up our mind and think about what that looks like for us to get going. And here's where we are moving into the building these sorts of things out. So if you don't have a morning routine and you're looking at trying to grabbing the power of this, that framework, 3 things to activate. Activate your mind, activate your soul, activate your body. That's an intriguing thing to think about, but also don't go full tilt boogie into this. Don't let this stress you out. Think through things like, what would a very, very basic morning routine look like, where you're going to do one of those things every day, and your expectation is just to do that. It might be something simple like, I'm going to spend 15 to 20 minutes in scripture and prayer. I'm going to read one chapter or one section of a book, or I'm going to read 2 Substack articles of people that I know that make me think. And then I'm going to go outside and I'm going to walk around my block, just doing something like that in a very, very basic way to begin starting the practice. Because this is what I've found. The more awareness we build up to activating ourselves for what we're doing in the morning, the more we will begin to learn and realize this actually matters, or even saying, no, this does not matter that much. This is a level of just a heavy, heavy customization that we can build here. The second thing is this: what do you need right now? You might be in a situation that is extremely stressful. Something my dad told me years ago in ministry is you have to, the harder you are working, you need to also be exercising to kind of burn that alternate energy or that sort of a thing. So what does your situation in life mean like right now? You might be at a place to where you're not having to activate your mind that much at work. That might not be as crucial. And so you could spin that or almost double dip, taking a longer walk or a longer exercise station and listening to a podcast while you're doing it and realizing, hey, for where I am right now, I can absolutely double dip this and it's no problem. Or you might have a bunch of little people running around your house. And so some of this might be done, together, one-on-one. I love doing the Lectio 365 app with my niece. She's 11. When she stays tonight, she'll come in. And a lot of times, the only time I use that app is when she is in. And so there's this kind of moment of formation that we have together. So think about this. I love to a couple people to follow and pay attention to on social. I'll link these in the show notes. There's a guy named Matt Ragland on Twitter, and he talks about how he's involving his kids in his morning routine a lot lately. What I'll actually link to is a thread about how he's learned to have morning routines alongside of his children. And the second's a guy, I follow him on both TikTok and Instagram, and it's called Blake of Today. And he's a writer. He does these little short form videos. Okay, warning, 2 things. 1, he does jiu-jitsu. He talks about jiu-jitsu a lot. It's one of the reasons I love him. 2, he likes the F word a lot. And it's like every single time he'll share something, I'm like, this is prolific. I want to share this with everybody I know, but you had to use that word. But he has 2 little people. He has a 3-year-old and a toddler. And he talks about what is it like to integrate them into his life in a very well-intentioned way. So if you've got little people around the house, those are 2 folks to follow. Hit the show notes, revchadbrooks.com/PPP070. And you can see how they are integrating their children, especially their very, very small children, into their routines. So they still kind of gain the momentum or the power of that. But it's also this, realize, depending on what you were doing that day, you might be able to adapt and shape and shift this around. That's the thing about routines like this, is we get the idea of what does it mean to personalize this. And here's the deal. You get to do what you want to do. You get to do what you need to do. You get to do what forms you the most. And it's about learning the daily difference. And it's about slow, tiny little steps of learning what does it mean over the course of 6 months to step into the office on a Tuesday that happens to be your meeting day, but knowing that your mind is fully aware of what's going on, your soul is at a happy place. If you're like me, you dread staff meetings, but your soul is going into it in a good space. And you've already walked around a little bit. You've already hit the block. Your blood is flowing. You're fully awake, fully activated when you step into that on Tuesday. And then knowing that your Thursday morning routine, which might be where you're working on tons of messages, that you adapt and you tweak and you focus that out differently so you can be at your best on what that Thursday looks like. That's what I love about this idea of morning routines as activators. Is it simply us just saying, this is what I think I'm going to need today, so this is what I'm going to focus on today. I'm going to make sure these things are not being turned on when I need them in the office. I'm activating and waking up in my morning these parts of my life that I know will be important for me through this day. So hit me back up on socials at RevChatBrooks. Let me know what you think about this idea of morning routines is just activating actions. Well, we'll be back next episode. Productive Pastor, as always, great to have you on. Thanks for letting me come into your ears and share with you each and every week. Come hang out in the Productive Pastor community on Facebook. It's the Productivity Party. Over 1,000 pastors and ministry leaders growing together in our journey of healthy productivity. I will see you back in the next episode.